In this video, we're going to be taking a look at what's in store for the United States in 2025. We're going to look at the Trump inauguration chart, as well as charts for economic and financial trends and global conflict. There's two major transits at play here in 2025, the Pluto return and the Neptune opposition in the United States chart. So let's get started and take a look at them. What we have here is a tri-wheel of the US chart, natal chart, the Trump natal chart, and the transits that are occurring on Trump's inauguration on January 20th of 2025. It is normally done as close as possible to noon in Washington, D.C. So that is what the chart is set for as far as the transit. And so what I'd like to point out here is that the United States is still in its Pluto return, and it's been peaking in 2024 and 2025. Those are the most powerful exact transit years of this transit. And so you have Pluto conjunct Pluto here. And so that's a lot of evolutionary change, a lot of things, end and new beginnings. That's what Pluto does, is it changes things for the further evolution of whatever you're looking at, in this case, the United States. So what I want to show here is that's opposing Trump's Saturn in his natal chart, and also transiting Mars, that is conjuncting his Saturn and opposing this Pluto return. So all of this is in opposition really here. And also combined with transiting Moon is squaring the Mars-Saturn combination here. So these planets tend to be difficult planets to deal with. They can be, really churn up a lot of emotions. They can cause, actions to be taken, sometimes aggression, in people or in groups. So, on Inauguration Day, you're seeing this here. And so I would, be surprised if there's not some protests. They may even turn, violent. They possibly could. And a lot of emotion, a lot of polarity in the country that will really be kind of set off by this inauguration, and that'll come out and be expressed by political people and the different factions in the political parties. And so that kind of sets the stage where this is going to be an emotional, deep-seated feelings in people and groups on that day. And so they need to be, I'm sure they're prepared for that, in case there would be protests and things. But, it could be eventful in that regard. Gold is ruled by Pluto as well. And so in 2024, I forecasted that gold would do very, very well. And indeed it did. The numbers for 2024 were on January 1st of 2024, gold ounce was $2,063.73. Right before doing this video at the end of November, on November 28th of 2024, it was $2,684 an ounce. So it increased in value $610.80 per ounce. And that's just under 30% increase. So a huge profitable situation with gold in 2024, as I forecasted it would do well. Gold does good during periods of instability, like in government or between governments, wars, conflicts, and it does well when the economy has a lot of inflation and just a lot of risk in it. And so, that's the way 2024 was. And so, obviously, I did very well. And we're continuing with a lot of those issues in 2025. The Trump administration is trying to implement some things that would help the economy, and that may help temper that. But I have a feeling, to get all these changes through, it'll probably be closer to the end of the year before you really see effects from anything they might implement. And also, I think, the conflicts in the world are ratcheting up. So, again, that tends to make gold do well. And so, this is another peak year of this Pluto return. And so I would expect Pluto in 2025. My forecast would be it will definitely go over $3,000 an ounce. And it may get up to 3,500 or more an ounce. It just depends, how bad the conflicts get and what they can really actually accomplish in the economy. So that would be my projection. And again, this is astrology, and it's based on astrological data. So I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice. You have to, just look at this as information and education, and make your own decisions based on that, and possibly consult a professional financial advisor if you're making major financial decisions. But that's what the astrology shows, is that gold should remain strong and a good performer in 2025. Now we're going to talk about the Neptune opposition that's occurring in the United States. It's continuing from 2024 into 2025. And we'll be with that through the rest of the year. So it's definitely continuing to play out. In 2024, I forecasted that the Neptune opposition would cause stress in the economy, and it controls wealth and the flow of money. So it's everything to do with the financial system and the economic system. And in 2024, you had a significant increase in foreclosures and bankruptcies, especially in small businesses. Credit card debt went up. People having their cars repossessed, people not able to buy cars. The larger items in the economy, they just can't afford it. And, there's just a lot of stress. There's a lot of inflation. And so, this is the economic effects from 2024. And now you'll start to see the system changes that are going to occur because of the stress in the economic structure. And so, we have a new administration coming in. We'll see what they're able to accomplish. But again, that will probably take some time for any changes to really have any, significant effect there. So, we're going to be dealing with the system changes here. And one of those changes is they are looking to go to a digital dollar. And so many banks have already notified their clients in their terms and conditions that, at some point their account will be changing to a digital dollar. And so it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, that this happens. It will probably happen this year sometime. It might be later in the year, but it'll probably be in 2025. And they'll go to this digital dollar system. And so they'll probably, my guess would be they would roll it out. They'll do it slowly. They don't want to create a shock in the system, but they're doing it slowly, and they're probably in government accounts. So things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security payments, any kind of government payments of that type will transition first to the digital dollar. And then I think it's going to be slowly rolled out into the general economy. So things like, CHIP payments, Medicaid payments, food stamps, disability, Social Security, those kind of accounts will probably be changed first. And so, people say, well, wow, that's, a new system. But the United States has actually changed their money quite frequently. And what you're seeing on the screen here is an example. And I picked this one because we are having this Neptune opposition. And there's been one Neptune opposition before in U.S. history, and that's between 1856 and 1861. So it was the lead up to the Civil War. And what that caused is to have a change in the economic system, where you actually had, during the Civil War, two different currencies. You had the currency of the South, you're seeing there on the left, Confederate States of America. And on the right, you had the Union, which is the United States of America. So they each had their own currency. And so, the net effect of this Neptune opposition was eventually we had a new currency. After the war, the South lost. And so we had a new currency. And, it was a new economic system. And here's another example of that. It changed again in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve banking system. They came out with a new type of money that was called the Federal Reserve note. And as you look at it here, it looks familiar because that is the current system that we're using right now, is the Federal Reserve note. And so that's the familiar money that you're used to using. But that's, in my opinion, going to be changing. And it's not going to be paper currency anymore. It's going to be a digital dollar now, coming into the future here quickly. Okay, now we're going to look at the global stage and see what's going to be flowing into 2025 from this Pluto return. And so I'll point that out again. This is the inside chart is the U.S. civilly natal chart. The middle chart is the Ukraine natal chart, and the outside is the transits as of January 1st. And so you can see here, I'll just point out there's a Pluto return happening right here. And so in 2024, there's 3 exact transits of Pluto. It just keeps oscillating over that exact transit. And so very intense year regarding, the situation with U.S. and supporting Ukraine. And so in February, we had the huge increase in U.S. support with armaments and technical advisors, military advisors, supporting their military campaign in Ukraine. And that was the first peak in 2024, where the transit was exact. And the second one is July, and that was the summer campaign, where everything really ratcheted up, and new weaponry, types of more advanced weaponry were used, and support increased, and so there was a major uptick in the war. So that was in July of 2024. Now in December, the time of this recording, just starting December 2024, there's another exact transit towards the end of the December. And so what I would forecast is that there will be another series of events or whatever that cause an uptick in the conflict in Ukraine. So our involvement there. This is showing the U.S. involvement in that conflict. So you can see that as part of this Pluto return, you can see the Saturn of Ukraine is directly conjunct. I mean, within 1 degree of this Pluto return of the United States. So they're deeply involved in that Pluto return. This is what the chart is telling you. And Saturn and Pluto are generally involved when there's any kind of major conflict. And you can also see that at the beginning of the year, we have Mars opposing this Pluto return. It's transiting. And so that's going to be an intense time because Mars is, action, aggression, it supports military conflict. And so you can see it here in the chart that there's going to be an uptick in the military escalation in December of 2024 and especially January of 2025. So that's when we have the change of administration and everything happening as well in the country. So you can see it's going to be a very intense December and into January 2025. And so this conflict is expected to, stay strong for, into 2025. And, they're looking at ways to maybe de-escalate this conflict, but it's probably not going to have an effect if they're successful at all until later in the year. So I expect the first part of the year to be major war efforts happening, and then they might be able to de-escalate the situation a little later in the year. But this also, the other thing is, you have to consider nuclear weapons as well, because Pluto rules nuclear energy. So it's a possibility, I hope it doesn't go to that level. I hope they're able to mitigate this conflict before that happens, but it is a potential in this kind of a transit. And as part of this conflict in Ukraine, we're going to look at Russia's involvement at this point. And so what we have here is the US natal chart on the inside. We have the Russian chart in the middle, and we have the outer wheel as of January 1st, what the transits are. And so you can see here that Russia is very involved in this conflict as well. As part of this Pluto return, they also have their Saturn conjunct our Pluto return. And so, and this is an indicator of conflict, war, it can be. And so it is in this case. And so, Russia has been the opposing force that, is opposing Ukraine. So again, that's it shows up in the United States chart as an aggressor. So, and you can see, at play, so that's also going to bring in this Mars opposition in December of 2024 and January of 2025. And so things are going to heat up in those months. This is the most dangerous time in this Pluto return as far as global conflict because of this. It's, Russia and Ukraine are deeply involved in our Pluto return here and will have significant effects on the United States. Not only in war, but, all the money that we're having to send over to support them and the depletion of our military supplies to support them. So, it has a very negative effect on the United States. And so it will have, a long-term effect as well from all of this escalation and conflict. And again, this is the most dangerous time of this Pluto transit. And so, be, thinking good thoughts, try to, do whatever you can to support peace or whatever. You don't want it to go nuclear. So there is a potential for that because of Pluto. Pluto rules nuclear energy, like I said in the last slide. So you can see that, what the relationship is between Ukraine and Russia, because their birth dates are both of these countries are both in 1991. So their charts are very similar. And when I look at the chart, it's almost virtually looking at the same chart as Ukraine. So you can see that indeed they are both involved in this conflict that we're fighting. this is a critical time in history, as we've just looked at. And so, what can you do? That's what most people ask is, well, what can I really do to affect anything? And there are the things you can do. And it's important, it's critical right now that, you take an attitude toward peace and try to support peace in every way that you can. Meditate on peace. Try to avoid being involved in negative events and outcomes. Just try to stay away from them. The people that do, come out of wars and restart humanity and move it in a more positive way are people who avoided becoming involved in it and then took the initiative to rebuild society in a positive way. And so, the works you do, what can you become involved in to support peace? What efforts can you do? You can do them on an individual level. You don't have to do it through an organization. You can, but do what you can do to support peace. And, you have control over your own actions and your own karma as far as the karma you create regarding this. So you want to avoid any negative karma from these negative situations going on in the world and create positive karma for yourself. And your vibrations impact the vibration of the world. So it does make a difference. It does make a difference. So with that, thank you so much for watching the video and take care. Bye-bye.